Hey folks, today we're going to take a look at a game that is currently seeking funding on Kickstarter. That game is called Overturn, Rising Sands, and it's from Foxtail Studios. Now, if you like what you see throughout the rest of this preview video, I'm going to encourage you to go to the official Kickstarter project page. You can do that by following the link in the top corner of your screen, as well as down in the description section directly underneath this video. Go there, find out more information than I could possibly tell you here, and hopefully you will consider backing the project. Now, Overturn Rising Sands is a cooperative game where you and the other, and it can also be played solo, you and the other players are fantasy warriors, but in a more unique setting than I think most fantasy games that are about elves and orcs and things like that. This game takes place in a kingdom that is sort of a desert oasis kingdom, and you and the other players are rebels who are trying to prevent this tyrant who is trying to gather up these talismans and, of course, gain ultimate power. And in the meantime, he is brutalizing the citizenry, keeping slaves and having his guards rough up people, and he has these boss minions who are just doing terrible things to everyone. So you and the other players are heroes who are trying to put a stop to this and, of course, stop even worse things from happening if he gets those talismans. Now, how this is actually going to play out, again, cooperatively, where you are all going to have a hero character with your own special skills and items and weapons that you can get, and you can get more during the course of the game, and you can actually gain experience points and go through a campaign mode as well. You're going through these quests that are going to have different layouts of the map, including terrain, scenery, buildings that you'll have, and of course populated with the citizenry of the area as well that you can actually interact with, and some of them you can actually turn over to your side, and you're going to need that help because you'll be fighting off the guards and the boss and his particular minions as well, and there is so much more to this game. So what we're going to do is give you a brief overview with a prototype copy of the game. So two important things I want to mention here. First, anything that I show you here may change in the final version. Of course, what you will see as far as like the buildings in this prototype copy are not going to be representative of the final version, of course. So please, and of course I'm using standees instead of miniatures, things like that. So please go to the Kickstarter project page to see what the final version will look like and more information. The other important thing to mention here is that this is a big, expansive game. There are so many features in this game, things that you can do to your characters, little bits and interactions with the populace of this game world. There's no way I could cover everything here. All I did was just give a brief overview of how the important parts of the game work from turn to turn, round to round, what you can expect as far as that. So please just do bear in mind, I can't cover everything here. And again, that's why you should go to the Kickstarter page to see even more video and things like that. But in any event, we will do this. Then we're going to come back and discuss it further. Overturn is a cooperative game for up to 4 players that can also be played solo. Each player is a hero in the desert oasis kingdom of Drish Barahir, trying to stop a foul tyrant known as Zahak from finding talismans of Nephthys and gaining ultimate power. Players will work together as a team and go on quests, and if they can survive and meet the quest's objectives, they'll win the game. If they fail to survive or meet their goals, or if the chaos clock that measures collateral damage runs out, they'll lose. The first thing you'll need to do when setting up a new game is choose a quest. You always have the option of doing a quest as a standalone adventure, however quests also happen in sequence and tell the story of the battle for Drish Barahir, and with an escalating challenge as well. Every quest will tell you which terrain tiles, tokens, and starting figures to use, and you'll lay those out first. There are also special areas of the board that you'll mark as the starting space, the market with its own attached board of items that you can buy, and, if applicable, the dungeon and exit areas, which might be important for questing objectives. You'll also separate the various game cards and tiles, such as weapons, treasures, events, guards, and search cards, and put them within reach of all players. Make particular note of artifacts, which are incredibly powerful items that are only acquired in very unique situations. Every quest usually contains a main boss monster that you'll have to fight. Place his start card nearby, together with the cards for his minions, the monsters who always accompany him or her, and his AI cards as well. You'll need to make a supply of several different types of tokens. There's Derek, which is the money of the land, red dice for the guards to roll, black dice for the heroes to roll, search tokens that are kept face down for now, and general tokens used to keep track of guard damage, treasure, guard awareness, and the actions and effects that guards might be afflicted with. Perhaps the most important part of setup is each player choosing their hero. There are 6 heroes in the base game: the Fire Mental, the Water Dancer, the Hunter, the Wolf Guard, the Thief, and the Iron Molder. Each player will take the card of the hero they've chosen, as well as a miniature, a dashboard with pegs to keep track of stats, and a colored base to attach to their miniature base. After a hero is chosen, you'll have to choose a class for them as well. This is basically their job, and with it is a set of matching skills. Every hero has a recommended class, but you may choose whichever you like. Give each hero 2 starting skills, 10 Derrick with which they will buy a weapon, and some leather armor. Put the miniatures for the party in the starting area indicated by the quest, and decide who will be the first player. Finally, set up the Chaos Clock tile. A marker is placed to denote the time the heroes have to meet their objective, and a deck of event cards is stored on it. Every round of Overturn is broken down into phases: the hero's phase, the enemy's phase, the Chaos Clock phase, and the end phase. You'll cycle through these phases and complete rounds of play until either the heroes have won or lost the quest. Let's start with the hero phase. First, double check the mission parameters. For instance, in the starting scenario, you're trying to stymie the efforts of one of Zahhak's lieutenants, Caleb, and will have to do things like destroying towers, searching the area, defeating his dog minions, etc. How the heroes actually do this is with their stamina rating, which determines how many actions they can take. For instance, you can spend cubes to perform melee and ranged attacks, or spend a cube to move to a new space. You can even spend 2 stamina to shake off a stun effect that an enemy might inflict you with. Combat in the game is straightforward. You'll roll a number of strength dice based on your combat stat and your weapon, and together with that, an aim die, which determines which part of the body is potentially hit. And simultaneously, you'll roll the defense dice for the enemy, comparing the symbols and trying to exceed your opponent. You will also have to interact with the environment at times, when you move into spaces that have citizens, treasure chests, search tokens, etc. This doesn't cost stamina after you move, and you'll draw the applicable card or token and resolve it. Some of these interactions have dramatic effects, including moving the quest forward, for example, or freeing a slave and making them a companion to your party. There are other actions that cost no stamina, like reorganizing your inventory and trading with the other heroes, equipping skills, or using powerful and unique signature abilities, although those will cost you an experience point. Speaking of that, during the game, players will earn a lot of experience points from combat and different interactions, and this is important for getting stronger and learning more skills. It's also very important for the campaign mode of the game, wherein the players will carry over their heroes into future quests with the knowledge that they have gained. When every player has taken their turn and taken all the actions they care to or can, then it's time for the enemy phase. Enemies activate in steps, one after the other. The first step is searching and spotting. The enemies out on the board are constantly looking for the heroes, and when they do spot them, the threat level will raise. If they spot them again, they may shout or raise the alarms, hindering the player, and there are tokens for all of these different states of affair. The next steps are either attacking or moving. If they can't reach the hero, they'll have to move, and possibly move again. This all depends on whether the enemy unit has melee, ranged, or magic. Regardless, once an enemy makes an attack, its activation is over, since that is the entire purpose of its activation here. When a boss battle breaks out, you'll need to specifically refer to the boss card and his AI deck, as well as his minions. This also happens out of phase with the other enemies. After the enemies all act, it's time to check the Chaos Clock. When the heroes and enemies act, an hour is ticked off, which is important since quests may have important time restraints. Every 3 hours of time will require you to draw and resolve an event card. These are mostly bad for the players, and will involve things like putting enemy reinforcements on the board, harming your companions, shutting down the market, etc. If you're not careful, some things that occur during the game may force the Chaos Clock to move down even faster, and in some rare situations you can actually move the clock back or keep it in place. The end phase is when several different effects take place all at once at the end of the round. The heroes will regain their stamina for the coming round, the boss and his minions will have effects and maneuvering that will occur, and this is also when the effects and abilities of your companions that you might gain during the game might change dramatically, or they might leave you. But once this is all cleaned up, the next round will begin, and the game will continue this way until either the quest objectives are met or they are failed. That is a very brief overview of Overturn. Well, I hope that that brief overview gave you a glimpse at how expansive and huge and varied that this game can be. I also hope it teased you with some of the other things that you saw, like there's neat little like scrolls depicting the state of the populace, and also wanted posters for your characters when the threat gets too high. Things like that, just and so many different items and weapons and gear and just so much stuff. And of course it's all tied to this expansive fantasy theme, which again, and I think that this cannot be stressed enough, it's not like, I mean, there's so many fantasy games out there, but they all feel very cookie cutter, right? So you've got humans and some elves working together with some dwarves to fight orcs, and some variation of that. Maybe the names change, but it all feels and looks the same. In this case, the pure setting change alone makes it more unique from so many other of its contemporary board games that fall into this broad category of cooperative fantasy. Because it feels more real in a sense, because it feels like a lot of, even though there are like magic users and ifrits and things like that, it does feel like when you're having to work with the populace and you have all this terrain showing that it's like almost like a Middle Eastern nation, it feels more, it has more weight and gravity to it. And again, it feels so distinct from so many other games that it, is elbow to elbow with. So there is that, but then of course there's the gameplay, and it's very interesting. So the setup of the game can be a bit long because, of course, you have to set up all the tiles, and there's so many buildings and pieces like the palm trees and things like that. I mean, really, in the final version, it's just going to be this big, glorious game just to look at. And so that kind of thing can take time. But the reality is, the actual turn-to-turn gameplay is all this sort of very intuitive, logical progression of things. You have the hero's phase, you have the enemies, like, we move, they move, we have to do the chaos clock, which is just sort of like the game world acting against us and time running out, and then we clean up and we do it again. So the actual turn-to-turn gameplay is very straightforward. What it comes down to, though, is you having a lot of freedom for those actions that you can take. It could be just very simply, I'm running up to that guard and trying to take him down before he takes us down. It could be, I'm going to go talk to that group of people over there and have interactions with them. Maybe I can buy some stuff. Maybe they'll become our companions and help us in this rebel uprising against this tyrant. You never know. Or I'm going to go get that treasure chest. I'm going to go search the area and see what I can find over here with this randomly, hidden search token. There's so many different actions that you can take, even though it's just, how much stamina do I have? Here's what I'm going to do with it. So it never feels like you're overwhelmed with complexity, yet you have so much freedom to do a lot of things, if that makes sense. Then you go into the enemies phase, and that's very interesting too, because it's not just like, okay, enemy sees you, enemy moves towards you, enemy attacks. In this case, it's enemies looking for you constantly. They're guards. Of course they're going to do that. They can spot you. They can raise the alarm. It almost feels like a video game in that sense, where, like, think about the Metal Gear games where it's like you got to stay out of their line of sight. If they see you, they're going to be like, huh? Like, you'll see a little exclamation point go over their head. And then they might, if they really find you, they might call other guards over to you. And you got to prevent that from happening, because things are going to get really bad really fast if that ends up happening. So the game, again, makes the game feel more alive, right? So then it goes, but then you also have the big boss battle, which that even more makes it feel like a video game in a sense. I didn't show all of them, but there's other bosses as well. They all have their own particular type of minions, their own AI deck that determines their behavior, which makes them feel unique and distinct from the other enemies and bosses in the game. You get experience points and even more experience points for killing like bosses and things like that. So you can feel yourself getting more powerful over time. And there's so many characters just in the base game that feel distinct from each other with their special abilities and the way that they progress through their skill chains, that you can feel like a distinct hero from the other players. There's interesting bits of like the chaos clock, which is for collateral damage. Like, you can't dilly-dally. You have to be moving towards your objectives as much as possible. And within that regard as well, it's not just a very simple objective of, hey, go kill that guy, and then we're done, and don't die. In this case, it's, okay, yeah, maybe kill that guy and don't die. Also, go and search the area. Make peace with the crowds and try to get them to come to your side. Go destroy some sentry towers. Help with, there's side quests in the game. There's the dungeon I didn't even show you. The marketplace where you can go buy more stuff. There's just so much in the game. It feels, there's so much freedom to do what you want to do, but always moving towards this campaign and stopping this evil, so it feels like this grand epic quest. But look, again, I can't show you everything this game has. That's why it's on you. If you are interested, if this appeals to you, if you like the theme, if you like the gameplay, if you love games that have just so many bits, don't take my word for it. Go to the Kickstarter page, find out more information for yourself. You can do that by following the link in the top corner of your screen, as well as down in the description section underneath this video. That is Overturn, Rising Sands from Foxtail Studios, excuse me. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, for supporting our sponsors. Take care.